having said that, today we are actually going to do what a very interesting topic again, which is linked to competencies. That is a BEI and a CBI. So what is a BEI full form?
Behavioral event interview.
Sure, most of you have heard about it, and especially I have a lot of psychologists sitting here. And what is a CBI?
Competency-based
interview.
Okay. So when do we use BEI or when do we use a CBI?
To know any critical competence in a person, we ask a person to elaborate on incidents where that competency is seen, and that's what happens in BEI. An event, a person elaborates where the competency is seen. So I am, if I want to prove that I have independent thinking, I am telling an event or the way I've handled union and all that, so that's BEI.
Okay. So essentially what is it? I'm using BEI and CBI as a tool, that is an interview tool.
Yes.
It's an interview tool.
Yes.
It's an interview tool. Okay. All right. Okay. So since Harsha is actually now whether let me wake him up a little more. Okay. I'll ask him. So why do we interview typically in an organization? Very rule. I mean, it's a very bland question. Why do you interview in an organization? Typically for hiring?
Yeah, we interview.
Huh?
Yes, for recruiting, we interview candidates.
So why do we recruit people? Essentially, we recruit people because we want to bring them on board, and they should
contribute to the business.
They should perform, right?
Yes, they should contribute to the business.
So what does it mean that we want to hire the right kind of people? Fit. Why should we hire the right kind of people? We want to hire the right kind of people because they should then perform.
Yes.
Otherwise, we are actually throwing money on the table. We hire and then we are paying wage costs and we don't get ROI or productivity.
Yes.
Right? So then why should we use BI and CBI? People have been using in organizations a typical traditional way of interviewing, right?
Yes. To get the right fit, we use
So why can't we just use a traditional interview? What's so great?
Position focused, to stay position focused and avoid other irrelevant questions in interviews.
To get the superior performer, best business in the results.
So today we are going to do, that was to just, create that context for you guys. So typically when we do a conventional interview, traditional interview, what are some of the, all of you have gone through, what do they do in a conventional interview? I'm sure all of you have gone through the interview process. Typically what happens when you go for a typical traditional conventional interview?
Evaluate what's written in the...
Tell me about yourself.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Question.
Past experience.
Tell me about your experience. Tell me about your family background, your education background. So we'll ask these typical questions.
Okay. So what's wrong? What's wrong in that? Huh? So typically what happens? So what is wrong in a typical traditional or a conventional interview? Somebody said questions. Harsha said questions are poorly designed and structured. No?
Yeah.
He may be asking Harsha one list of 10 questions, whatever comes to his mind. And then suddenly he'll ask Shamir for the same role, another set of 10 questions, whatever. So there is variation, subjectivity. Right? Then after the end of it, when Harsha responds, I may remember, I may not remember, or 50% I will make a note or may not make a note. So the rating or the scoring, the way I will look at it, absolutely no science involved. Then what will happen? It won't have any standard format. For
Right.
what kind of competencies am I assessing? Okay, come in. I will just call some finance manager. I'll call, hey, we are going to interview for this HRBP and this candidate here. This is the resume. Just, there is no structure,
Correct.
there's no format, nothing. Okay, so the process, entire process is very, very, subject to biases, whims. If I like you, I like Harsha's face, I will take him. Huh? And if Shamir is from my same college, I will say, hey, he's apna aadmi hai, le lenge.
Mhm.
Huh?
Correct.
Okay, so when Shamir comes on board, will there be any kind of a correlation between this hire and the performance?
No.
May or may
May.
not be.
Mm.
बड़ा chance लेना पड़ता है. May, I can't predict, but it can be
Can
a
be.
good hire or it may not be a good hire.
Yeah.
Okay. So let us do a quick. So today, can organizations afford this kind of a recruitment?
Not
Today,
really.
especially, maybe gone are the days 2 decades ago that they could afford, but today can they afford? Absolutely not.
No.
Why? Because today, wage cost, every organization is looking at wage cost to turnover ratio, which has to be as per a certain benchmark. You know what I'm talking about? The payroll cost at the month
Payroll
of
cost.
that wage cost
Got it.
to turnover, what we call it as revenue.
Revenue.
So there is a ratio. Now, if a manufacturing organization typically has a ratio of say 4%, 5% or something, and benchmarking that way in their peers, if they increase it, then the cost of production also becomes more, or the productivity comes, profit comes down. Now, in today's times when there's so much of competition, don't you think cost makes a very important criteria? So therefore, if you're going to on one side increase the wage cost, and will the CEO allow you to bring the profits down?
Not
What
really.
will happen to the shareholder?
Yeah.
He is accountable for the shareholder. That way, he will call you up and say, hey, even if you want one full-time employee, he will ask you why you want, they won't let you do, can't we adjust, can't you do some restructuring? So sanction for a one full-time employee also becomes a great challenge. And then when it is such a challenge, and say, for example, 50% of your workforce, for example, if you have a workforce of 500 people, and say in Kalyan's factory, there are 500 people and 200 people are bad hires, what will happen to his productivity? Down, wage cost up. The next day, his boss will call him and say, what's happening? Just now he said we have all hired many people. So I hope all of them are good hire. So when we say good hire, what does it mean? The point I'm trying to make is that there should be a correlation between the interview rating and the
Performance of the candidate.
performance. Absolutely. Let us do a quick one, just to give you a little interesting story here. We'll go to this afterwards. Can you read this? All of you are able to read? So there's one company where 2 recruiters are there, Ashok and Deepak. Now, Ashok is a person who is always boasting about his recruitment skills. Okay, he says, I have a list of questions, and then I will ask all the these questions to all the candidates. And by looking at the candidate itself, I can make out. There are some interviewers who will say, by looking at him only, I can say whether I should select him or reject him. So what happens? He says he's very quick to judge. Now, there's another person, okay? Deepak. So he's a person who's quiet, but he has always a list of questions. He asks questions, and he tries to analyze the body language, and then he goes at a very scientific manner, same questions to everybody, okay? He does a competency-based interview. Now, in the company, everyone wants to know who's a better evaluator among the both, who should be given what training in interview skills. So should I just go by gut feeling, or should I have a solid? So what will I do? I will actually then do a statistical analysis. called correlation. It is typically called the Spearman's correlation coefficient. Okay, how will you do it? I will take the rate. So I'm giving a very small data here. So what will I do? I will take a list of employees who have been interviewed by both Ashok and Deepak. Okay. And what will I do? I'll take the interview rating scores and also the performance rating scores. I can do it manually also here, but I will send that across because we don't have that kind of a time. So I will do it myself on an Excel and show you how we do it. Okay. Now, what will I do? And these are the ratings by Ashok. This is the performance rating of these employees. Then again, yeah, by Deepak. And this is the ratings. When Deepak has interviewed these candidates, this is their score, interview score, and this is the performance rating. So not giving a lot of, time for this. I want to just simply tell you, we can actually analyze and see that is there a correlation between interviewing and performance. Okay. And if you have a high correlation, that means the interviewer is good and he is doing a very scientific way of interviewing. Now, just to give you a little more insight into correlation, correlation is calculated like this. Correlation is always what? From -1 to +1. Okay, that's the measure. This measure is called correlation coefficient or coefficient correlation. Okay, -1 to +1. Now, if you have -1, it is strongly negative correlation, and +1, it is strongly positive correlation. Positive. And if you have 0, there is no relationship at all. Correlation is nothing but the relationship between two variables. Now, the two variables here are what? Interview scoring and performance rating. So we were establishing that is there a correlation between these two variables, interview scores and performance scores. Okay, to give you a little more. So if you have something from 0 to ±0.2, that means it is absolutely negligible correlation. If you have ±0.2 to ±0.4, no correlation. 0.4 to 0.7 ± is marked good correlation, and 0.7 to 1 ± is a high correlation. Now, let us just quickly can you see my Excel, guys? Are you able to see the Excel?
Yes.
Okay. So simply what will I do? Okay. So you can also do it whenever you have some data like this. We use a function called Corel. Okay. So all that I need to do is, can you see my arrow?
Yes, yes, yeah. Function.
Function X. Then
Corel.
I will go to Corel. Okay. Then I will say okay. Now it is asking for array 1 and array 2. Array 1 is nothing but these variables 1 and this 2. So what will I do now? 1 second. Yeah. Let me just clear that.
Yeah.
Now, let me just cancel it because this is.
You should do outside this.
I will. That's what I was just thinking. I'll do outside and then I will do that. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Now, I can use anyone. Now,
D5 plus D5.
Okay. I'll do this. Right. Then again, go to arrow 2. Then click on this and All right. Now what I'll do? Okay. What is the correlation here?
Plus 0.03.
0.03. So is it any correlation? Very, and no correlation at all. So that means whoever this guy was, do you think Ashok is a good interviewer? He's a bad interviewer. He needs training. Now the same thing can also be shown as what did I do? Select?
Both. Okay.
Insert. I went to this. Then I will do this. So, okay. 1 second. I'll just drag this here. Okay, are you able to see? Now,
Yes.
I'll click on one.
Yeah.
Can you see this line, guys?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That also shows that what? There is no
Change.
correlation at all. Got it? Now let me just delete it. Okay. I will.
Just delete. Yeah. Just select it.
Okay. Or I'll do cut, copy, paste. Okay, it's okay. Now, similarly, let me just go to this. I'm showing you this data, guys. Okay.
Okay.
Now I'll just go to Corel first. All right. So, all right. How much is it?
Way high. 0.64.
0.64. Now, maybe you can also see the graph.
High correlation.
0.4 to 0.67.
Click on any point, right click, add a trend line. Are you able to see the
Yes.
line?
Yeah.
What does it show? Positive correlation. That means while the higher the interview scoring, higher is the
Performance.
Okay, so this is just to show guys how you can also use data, okay, to
Find a correlation.
establish, that it's very important in today's times to take some historical data of our own interviewing and also check as to how impactful and what is the outcome of these interviews. All right. Okay. Now, okay, this is the same thing which I was trying to show. All right. Okay. Now when we talk about competency-based interview, CBI. Now, essentially, when we talk about a competency-based interview, why is it really very successful? Why is the impact so high on performance? Essentially, because it is targeted. It has a preset of questions. Now, how does the process begin? Like the questions are all structured and predetermined. For example, I want to hire an interview, say Kalyan, for an industrial relation manager. So what happens? What will I do? Industrial relation manager. The first thing is I will take a job description. I will ensure that I've got all the competencies in place for not Kalyan, for that IR manager role, which I'm looking at, Okay, then I will also do the competency mapping for that IR manager as to what are the functional and behavioral competencies required. Now, functional competencies are easy to evaluate because they are based mostly on what? Knowledge and skill. But what are essentially not able to evaluate are the key behavioral competencies, right? Though the entire competencies are knowledge, skill, attitudes, your motives, everything, but the key behavioral competencies are very, very difficult to evaluate. So therefore, when I'm doing a competency-based interviewing, what will I do? I will list out the 3 or 4 key behavioral competencies, along with what? Their entire behavioral indicators, level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4. Now, having done this, if there are 5 people interviewing, I will give it to all of them to understand the role and everything. Or if I'm seeing all the 5 candidates, now I will have a set of questions along with this competency mapping on behavioral indicators, and I will be asking the same thing to all the 10 candidates. And I will take the responses and I will then circle, did they do level 1 or level 2 or level 3? So that means what is happening, you tell me? I have kept the evaluation criteria, what? A, very scientific and absolutely the same for everybody. And also I have set a criteria, preset criteria there, not like traditional. Okay, whatever I feel like I will ask the first candidate, whatever I feel like I'm going to ask the second candidate, and I will select by gut feeling. Got it? So if you notice, candidates are expected to provide in a competency-based interviewing, I'm gathering evidence. I want to know everything. What did they do in the past? Because when I say competency-based, I'm actually firmly believing in the fact that past behavior predicts future behavior. If you have the competency, then you will be able to, my prediction, my validity will improve. Okay. So that is why there's nothing like a big funda. Very simple. You have the competencies in place for every role. You have the indicators. You have a set of questions which you will ask all the candidates so that it is more scientific and systematic, right? As opposed to a traditional interview. And then because the prediction and the validity is much, much higher. So there is a high correlation between what the person you hire and there's a likelihood of his doing good performance. Got it, guys?
Correct.
You'll
Yes.
actually do this, huh? Okay. Now you might wonder now, when we are doing a CBI, what is this BEI? Right? Why should a BEI come in between? Now, you have a list of competencies. Now, when we are doing a competencies, we are actually using this technique of events, behavioral events. Okay. So behavioral event is a technique. BEI is a technique through which you are doing this entire interview process. Okay. So what does it mean? You are using the critical incident methods. That means you are asking the candidate saying, okay, if I were to actually test, this is a job, like say, for example, Kalyan is working as an IR manager. Okay. Now he has to look after 3 locations. And let me tell you guys, IR manager means you are working with high, what is that called? Pressure. You have a lot of pressure. How do you handle pressure? I mean, day to day, every day, sometimes you will have a lot of pressure, dealing with unions, dealing with contractual workers, dealing with vendors, so pressure. So what will I do? I will ask him, hey, ask him about past events in the recent past or maybe sometime before, saying that, how have you dealt with the pressure? Now give us an incident where, a high point where you are able to deal with pressure. And then I will ask him like a story. That's why it's called event. When I ask him like a story, then I will ask him, what was the situation like? What, everything around the situation, what happened, when it happened and all that. Then I will ask him, what did you do? What action did you do? What are the things you did? What was the action plan? What all you did? Okay. Then we will ask about, okay, then what happened to the result? What was the outcome? So I'm asking him to tell me like a story event. So I'm using a technique called BI so that I can gather more evidence as to how did he behave, so that I can then code it and then decipher and then say this underlying behavior actually leads to this kind of a competency. Are you getting me, guys? So
Okay.
it is not just you asking and I will be listening and then again something. No. So there are people who will keep writing, recording, so that then you code it and you say, hey, what were the actions taken? How did he behave? And then was it at a threshold? Was it a differentiator? At what level has it done? Okay, just to give you a little understanding, because we'll do this as a mock interview, but let me just go through. So consistent and inconsistent responses, all the ideas, all the actions will be captured and then you will analyze them. So guys, if you can, are you able to see this slide or should I make it bigger?
It's visible.
Huh?
It's visible.
Yeah. So CBI is a very effective process. Okay, it focuses on what, as I said, competencies of that particular role to be interviewed. It gathers evidence of the required skills, experience, qualities. So it also looks at past behavior, because past behavior is a good predictor of future behavior. Okay. Now CBI gives the interviewers an insight into how the candidate may actually perform, and also gives you a graphic detail of the candidate's attitudes towards work, people, etc. Okay. Now let me quickly go through so that we can do a nice interesting mock. Yeah. As I said, what is the process of this competency-based interviewing? First of all, you should know the role. Okay. When the candidate comes, if you are using a competency, you should say, hey, where are you going to use a competency-based interview? So therefore, we are going to ask you a lot of your critical incidents in your past or in the present job where you have performed, and then we're going to record it, because it's, sometimes you're recording and the person says, hey, what are they doing? So you should brief them first. Okay. And then, because it is easy to validate technical and functional skills, as I said, the challenge is only when you have to evaluate the behavioral skills. Okay. And then you will also tell him beforehand that he should talk, he should give us as much information as possible. So therefore, I'm sure some of the psychologists will make me, Swati, if I want a candidate to speak a lot about these events and like a story, everything, in what kind of a state should he be?
Mental state you're talking about?
Yeah, very comfortable state,
Comfortable,
right?
Yeah.
So that means what? It is the onus of the organization or the interviewer to ensure that your candidate is comfortable. Not that he has come, okay, fine, we are going to interview, and bichara usko, we don't even make him sit, and he is not even comfortable. Then how can he give his best? He may be a very good candidate, but you are the loser because you have not given him, the time to make him comfortable, to explain to him and all that. That's so much so that he is not able to tell everything about himself. So precondition is that while you are preparing as well, you have to ensure that the candidate is also comfortable. That's very, very important. No more unless and until it is required stress interviews and all that stuff. So when you're doing a competency-based interview, you have to ensure that the candidate is able to feel comfortable because he also has to ask his questions, etc. Okay. Now, typically, what kind of behavioral competencies? I just put a list of competencies, which are very, very common. Whether it's at middle level, top level, etc. If you look at them, typically these are the competencies: leadership, right? Communication, compliance, influencing, problem solving, decision making, integrity, delegation, teamwork, risk taking, etc. Like, for example, when I was on the other side, as the head of HR, tell you, people may be very good in their IQ, people may be very good in their technical skills and functional skills, etc. But teamwork becomes very, very important, because especially when you're working, creating a product development software, etc. I've noticed that when there is a project in completion which has timelines, and if you don't have a good collaborative attitude of give and take, etc., you might have the excellent minds, but they're not able to finish the product on time, and we get huge penalties because why? Everybody has huge egos, they're not able to get along well, right? Adaptability. This is another very, very important key behavioral competency. Are people adaptable, to many things, to new technology? Are you adaptable? Are you quick on the uptake? So these are some things which become very, very critical depending on the role and depending on the nature of the industry, business. So you have to identify what are those key behavioral competencies and then assess them. Okay, I'm not going to go through the theory because I know you have this entire thing. So we will, yeah, so we will just, I want to give you a little base and then put you into a mock so that you are able to quickly go through the entire thing. Okay. One second, guys. Okay. What we will do is, how many of you, how many are we?
6 now. 2,
how many? 4, because I want to make, how many are we?
6.
First, I don't want to give any prep for asking questions. First, I want to give you competencies, and indicators are also there. I want you all to learn your own questioning. Then I will give you a little prep on that. Then again, you will do the interview. Okay. But other things are all there in place for you all. Okay. How many of you all are there?
6 now. We are 6.
6, is it? Okay. Then we'll have only one group. So we won't even go into a breakout room. Okay. I have sent a sheet. Okay?
Yeah.
All right. If you go through that sheet, you have competency, a definition, then you also have behavioral indicators. Just quickly go through them. There are about, I think, about 8 to 10 competencies. Everything is there in detail. Have you seen? Okay. Now I have 2 roles in mind because you all are very familiar with that. Okay. HR business partner role or HR generalist role. Are you familiar with the job description of this, or should we use another one?
We are familiar.
Familiar with HR generalist? Okay.
I'm familiar. I don't know about others.
Okay. Can I have a thumbs up? HR generalist. What does a HR generalist do?
Day-to-day affairs of employees.
I'm talking about elements. Quick, 1, 2, 1. We can collect quickly. Swati, what does a HR generalist do? One element.
Employee life cycle from onboarding to exit.
Shamir,
end-to-end HR functions.
Right. Performance management, no? Statutory compliance.
Statutory
also
compliance.
Payroll also. Inputs for the payroll.
Payroll
also
inputs, payroll,
employee engagement, something
yes.
like generalist role. It's not totally okay. Right. Now, Shamir is going to be the candidate for this HR generalist. All right. Time given will be how much? We will just use about 10 minutes, right? They will be list out the competencies quickly. You have that list. What are the 3 behavioral competencies required for an HR generalist? You have the list there, no? Amongst that, so that we can actually agree. You go through that list and tell me what are those 3 competencies for which we can actually evaluate Shamir.
Team working.
Yes. What else?
Customer focus, employees being customers.
Absolutely, customer focus. Then one more.
Attention to detail.
Yes, absolutely. Attention to detail. Okay. Now, I want 3 people who will ask questions on, everything is there for you all to understand. So nothing much to work. Team working, Harsha, customer focus, Leena, and everybody will get a turn. And Shrikant Patel will be for attention to detail.
Details.
I'll just write Shrikant here. Harsha and teamwork will, teamwork, Leena, are you teamwork? Okay. All right. Then, so 3 plus 4 I have. Now 2 I have as observers. Who are they? Swati and who else is here? Kalyan.
Ruhi.
Huh?
Kalyan.
Who is also here, right? Yeah. So I have 3 interviewers for 3 competencies. Then I have 1 candidate, 4. That makes 4. And then I have 2 observers as well. Okay. Now I will give, I will, all of you can actually go through. So I'll give you 5 minutes. No, 2 minutes is good enough. So I want you to ask all the 3 interviewers. I want them to ask Shamir question. Based on the response, please circle. There is level 1, level 2, level 3, right? Have you seen there? So if, say, for example, Leena is asking on teamwork, there are also a set of questions there. There are also behavioral indicators. So you can actually then circle them. Okay. Now the required level for this role is between 2 and 3. Okay. Done. So 2 minutes. So keep that ready and then we can ask questions. You can ask questions and I'm also here to make a note of it. And then 2 observers, not that observers can just sleep off and shut their, I want them to be active as well. Okay. And what is their role? Write the question. You pick up any interviewer, write the question, whether you want to pick up Harsha or Shrikant, and you write as understood by Shamir the purpose of the question. Got it? Because why am I making you do this exercise? Harsha may ask a question to Shamir intending for something, but the response was very different. And then write whether it was an open-ended question or a closed-ended. Did it allow him to speak more or less, etc. Got it? Okay. You want to plan for 2 minutes? I don't mind. I will now go on the main one. I will drag this. Okay. Yeah. Vilma, you can add your suggestions in this mock interview. Vilma, you are on mute.
Shamir has to answer all the questions, no?
Vilma, please, if you want, you can also add any suggestions to this mock interview.
Lot of questions.
Any suggestions, Vilma? Sunai nahi de raha.
Yes, tell me.
Any suggestions? Any suggestions?
No, as of now, it's fine. Let them start with the interview and
so
the patient.
Then we will get to know what is it, and then we will then give some yes and no's and wherever necessary. Okay?
The do's and don'ts, yes, we'll do it later.
All right. Leena idhar udhar dekh rahi hai.
She has a
The candidate Shamir.
so
Anybody who wants to be the first interviewer?
May I start?
And yeah, so teamwork, customer focus, and attention to detail. And the role is HR generalist. Okay. So this HR generalist is also doing hiring also. So you can ask questions. Okay. He does hiring as well. Employee life cycle. He does performance management. He does everything. Yes, guys. They're very scared of Shamir or what? Huh?
No, they are preparing the question.
Hello, Shamir. How are you?
Just before
I'm
you start,
fine.
just before you, I know Swati is one observer, Kalyan is another, and Ruhi. So we have, you have to choose one interviewer, not all three. You focus on only one interviewer, okay? And then you can also say whether we have to select or reject Shamir, okay? Based on the responses. Okay, guys.
So I'll go with Lena.
Yeah, so that others don't, use the same. You're going with Lena, then Ruhi will go with Harsha.
Harsha.
Harsha, and Kalyan will go with Shrikant. Okay? Is that okay, Shrikant?
Yes.
Ma'am, do we start?
Yeah. Sorry.
Hello, Shamir. How are you?
I'm fine. How about you?
I'm good, Shamir. Thank you for coming here today for an interview.
My pleasure. Tell me. Let's
Hope
start.
it was a comfortable travel reaching our office.
Yes. You had sent that location map, so that was very easy for me to reach here.
Yeah, that's good, Shamir. Do we start with the interview? Would you like to have some tea or coffee?
I just had my lunch, so it's just 2 o'clock. So I'm fine.
Yes, let's start. Shamir, my more concern is about the you'll be working with number of people in the team, okay, while being in HR generalist profile. So I would like to know, when last have you worked in a team?
I'm presently working with a team of 3 people. I have my other location HR officer, and I interact with the talent acquisition manager, the payroll manager. Okay, and obviously our senior. So whenever, for example, I being in this corporate office currently, all this monthly payroll input comes to me. So I interact with my fellow colleague of the other location to find out there's some missing details. I need this. So we have work on a certain set line. So I collate all that so that by the end of the month of the payroll cutoff period, I send this to payroll. And also simultaneously for the monthly statutory inputs, which I have to get before 5th from the location, I follow up, collate that, send it to my compliance officer. And any of this interviews happening in my location and the manager is in other location. So I take help of my HR officer there, who we both on the same grade. So she supports me in scheduling interview there, and I coordinate with the candidate here. So the candidate takes interview from my system. So that we work as a team, ensure things are aligned and work for a common goal.
Okay. So the whole team is working out of different locations.
Yes. We work out 3 locations. So I'm based in the corporate office. So I coordinate with my team members. So we all are 3 HR officers in 3 locations. For all the activities, I have to collate most of the things, and then I give to my corporate payroll or the corporate talent acquisition manager, compliance manager, interact with all these people to get the work done as per the SLA.
That's great. Shamir, if I have to ask you to rate yourself on team working, ranging from on a scale ranging from 1 to 5, where 1 is bad and 5 is excellent, while 3 is a midpoint, which is average, where would you rate yourself?
I would rate myself around 4.5, because I don't know what the other team members actually think about my way of interaction. I don't know, they may be plus or minus. So I will keep that 0.5 to them. So, but I rate myself with 4.5.
Okay. And while working in a team, if you don't agree with someone's point of view or the way the work is handled, how do you express it?
Whatever works, if I get the details which I have to submit by tomorrow morning to my manager, be it a payroll manager, that's very critical. That's a critical activity which comes every month. So I get some missing detail or something is missing, then I call that person. I have a chat. See, this is missing. You're supposed to send. Why it's the deal? Why it's missing here? Then because I know there was an excuse given last evening and saying that she told she will give it by today morning. Then I need to call up before the end of the day. That means if I have to submit at 4 o'clock, I call up on the first thing in the morning. You promised to give me this. Why don't you approach to that manager and get me that interview rating sheet and the signed salary sheet, so that then I attach and give it to. So I just get into a dialogue with them, understand what the issue, and I give a solution. Why don't you do this? I can also help from here. So we in tandem ensure we work, because we have to, at the end of the day, we have to complete our task, and we are responsible for manager and the department. So I just get into a dialogue with them, make them understand why this is critical. I require this. We have to complete this. So make them understand and get things done. So that's how this things is done.
That's a good collaborative approach, Shamir. It's really good. Would you like to share any incidents with us where you feel working in a team was really difficult, yet you found a way out with your approach, your healthy, positive approach out of it, and the work was done at the end of the day?
Yeah, because many of times it has happened. See, if you see, be generalist, we tend to attend most of the support activities for the employees. So we all work on certain timelines. So for example, we have got a payroll cutoff, we got a statutory cutoff. I need something from my branch, which is I used to reach by that time. Then I have to collate and give it. So it so happens one of the day, the person fell sick, some issues at their family, and I was supposed to get the entire set of documents by that morning, a scanned document, which I didn't get it. Then I have to call them up, get where it is kept, then liaise with the office boy in the location, take my manager's approval to open that cupboard, all that, then get it done. So at times, if you're well informed, there won't be any issues, but certain exigencies we can't do it. So that's how we manage and get the things done at the end of the day, being in different locations. So that's a challenge.
Very true. Yeah, that's really nice. That's really nice. Oh, ma'am, I am done. I have my whole family in my.
Okay, thank you, Leena. So can we go to the next person to assess the next competency?
You're on mute. Shrikant, you're on mute.
Yeah, sorry.
Shrikant, okay.
Shall I take on? Yeah. Yeah, Shamir, good afternoon. Very happy to see you here in the personal interview, and hope you have received the job description which has been shared along with the invitation.
Yes, so good afternoon. Yes, I did receive it, and I have gone through it, and I'm aware of the role which I'm getting interviewed.
Yeah. So how are the things at your end, family front, and everything is fine? All are safe and well-being?
So far so good. Thank God everything is good at my end, and hope to hear the same from you.
Yeah, thank you. So I'd like to just ask you one point where, as you are a HR generalist, working as a HR generalist, and we are looking for the same profile. So what are the aspects which we need to consider while the resource planning in terms of manpower resource planning? So how you take it ahead in your current organization or in your past experience? How you plan these resources and with respect to the cost aspect? So I'd like to know more on this.
See, the resource planning happens at the end of every year. Before the financial year, we have got a meeting, because this we get from that annual operating plan meeting where all the department head meets, and they we give the input of existing manpower, the cost, everything to the each department heads. In turn, in that operating meeting, they plan and come what is the current resources available and what is their expansion plan for in the next year. So after the meeting, we get the details. Okay, what is the forthcoming plan? Which are the branches we have to fill? What are any niche skills we have to recruit? Any branches they are adding? What they require? So we get much ahead. After that meeting, we get it, and that is split into. They give a details. In this quarter, we need to get this much resources, this kind of skills, this accountant or salesperson or analyst, MS analyst, we get the breakup for each branch, each quarter. So we plan that well ahead, within 30 days before. Then based on that approvals of the manpower acquisition plan from the department and the CEO, we go ahead within 30 days before in resource planning, be it external, internal movement, or we need to hire externally, then we act 45 days before. These are the set rules we follow, and we go on sourcing the people.
Okay, wonderful. So I'd just like to know, while reviewing the quarterly budget versus actual, so is there any incident you find that there are gaps due to some skill level recruitees has been failed out of the system while handling the recruitment cycle? There might be possibilities that if you are planning to hire highly skilled people in the month of June, say for 10 numbers, and because of the mishap or the lapses in the recruitment plan or hiring of the little bit shortage of the manpower, the impact has been again gone down to the productivity. So is there any linkages out of this, or how you handle this situation?
Yeah, the linkages will be there, because when we plan for around 10 resources for that quarter, and we see maybe we have two cases happens when we finish the recruitment, and then when the people join, then we come to know instead of taking 8 people, we have taken 6 people, but we have crossed the budget. Certain cases happen because we had a good candidate, so we have to hire, knowing the future that this can be a production supervisor or maybe a sales manager in future and down the line 2-3 years. So there we may overshoot the budget. That instance has happened. Otherwise, what happens is at times we have shortage of the skills, so we may, instead of 8 to 9 which we need to recruit by that quarter, we got only 4 and we had shortage of 2. Then we discuss with the respective manager settings. Okay, this person was supposed to join so and so, had rejected the offer. We have got a pipeline one. Let's complete this interview, and maybe next month, beginning of the quarter, these 2 may join. Then we can manage. So by then the manager comes, okay, I will manage with the external resources, we giving some incentives, and so that they can cover up. So those kind of aspect, we in tandem, we work with the manager and we do the resource allocation. Yes, there are impacts both ways in terms of budget crossing at times, and we manage the limited resources, and where we couldn't fulfill the numbers what they want, but we try to catch up in the early next quarter.
Okay. So Shrikant, do you have more questions or done?
Yeah, I have done, madam. Thank you,
Thank you
so much.
Thank you.
Now we have one more person. Who was it? Harsha?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, hi, Shamir. Good afternoon. How are you?
Good afternoon, Harsha. I'm fine. How about you?
I'm doing good, thanks.
Great.
I'm very glad to see you.
Good.
Very
good,
happy
good
and confident. Nice. Had your coffee, tea, or you just finished your lunch?
I just finished my lunch.
Okay. I'm sorry, I can't offer you coffee because we are virtually connected, but you can prepare one. We have 5 minutes time if you want to.
No, I can. I'm fine.
Or if you're hungry, I can give you 2 minutes for your Maggie.
Thanks for that option. Thank you. Go ahead. Let's go.
Shamir, you got the job description shared by my team? They said that they shared an invite with the job description.
Yes, okay. I got it. I did have a look.
How it looked like for you?
Yeah, it's fine. I'm doing similar role currently, so it's more or less equal. So hope to, if everything goes well, I can contribute well for this organization.
Okay, that's fantastic. Okay. There are a few preliminary questions which I want to ask you, but that we can actually set aside. I primarily want to look at a few competencies that want to check if that will suit for the requirement that we have. Okay.
Surely.
Yeah. So I want to know, are you a big picture person or a detail-oriented person?
In my role currently, there's a lot of thing. I shouldn't miss anything because I sit in the corporate office, I collect details for a lot of activities. So be it payroll, I should ensure that each new joinees or whatever inputs for the month, okay, because I type, I collect the details, I sign, attest and send it to the payroll manager. So I shouldn't miss even a zeros or a one or what. I need to cross-check this. So first,
what are the different inputs that you receive from your different office locations?
I get the new joinees details, salary inputs, incentives, performance pay, one-time payments, sales incentives, reimbursement, ad hoc reimbursement approved, all this. So I get all these details with the supporting proof. Without the proof, we reject it. So I keep it aside. Rest, I take it ahead. I key in whatever, everything I attest it. I check myself and I give to my junior fellow member. He also validates one. Then after my signature, it goes to the HR managers. He also checks initial. Then it goes to the payroll manager for all the payment aspects. Samely for any of the statutory, I get all this challans, everything, PF challan, ESA challan from my respective branches, 2 branches. On the due date, I check that payment, everything along with the payroll. Then it goes to the compliance manager. And be it if it is, so those are the checks I do. So in detail, I check and do it so that we can't feel sorry for any error. So I detail check all the details.
Yeah, Shamir, primarily in payroll, we expect 0 errors, right?
Yes.
And in our company, 31st or 30th, whichever the last working day of the month is the payday. And 20th, we assume as the cutoff date.
Yes.
And some months we will have more holidays coming in these days, and a few months you will have all these days available for you. So how you manage to make sure that you have sufficient time to go through all the data and come up with the error-free payroll file?
Yeah, what happens in my company currently is, I hope this is practiced here also, every quarter we get a payroll calendar. Considering the holidays, everything, okay, and the payday is last day of that month.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Shamir. Who makes this payroll calendar?
The payroll manager.
Okay,
he gives the payroll calendar. Based on that, we have 3 days before we have got our own cutoffs, getting the inputs. So once we get the payroll calendar, so we make our internal cutoffs and we send to all the stakeholders. To the sales manager, each department, they got this assistant who gives us inputs. This is the payroll, we need a cutoff, we need to get the input and the proof by then. So with that, we'll have a breathing space of 2 days. So with the help of that, our own inter-calendar, we get the details, process and send it to the payroll.
Okay. So in the month of March, we have too many things happening. We have bonus payout, we have performance management, and we also have payroll to go on time. So how you actually manage to, when multiple projects are handled, how you ensure that everything goes error-free?
In this March month, especially myself and the payroll manager, we work in tandem. And till the last minute, he will not run the payroll. So that the day when we work overnight, that month. So once we get all the inputs, pending inputs, we plan as per the calendar. We have always a breathing space of 2 days. We follow up, get the details. I and the payroll manager work in tandem. I connect with all this branch people, my HR officer, get all the inputs. He runs. Then he gives me for checkup, cross-check, we validate. Then finally he runs the payroll. We both tandemly work for 2-3 days and get it's paid to everyone without error-free, without any mistakes, or we don't miss any this thing. But if any miss happens, one of them a late input came and there is a special case, we communicate back to the manager. Okay, sorry, we'll not be able to do it. And if there's an exception comes, then it goes to our VP HR and he approves and the CFO approves. We include the last minute. So till last minute, we keep this open. So that if the payout has to go on 38th, by 29th, by afternoon, we ensure all the sign off are happen and we communicate all the tickets closed. No more input will be taken. So we work in tandem and we ensure it's done.
Great.
All right.
One last question.
Harsha, okay, go ahead, please.
Tell me about a time when you made a mistake in your work.
Mistake means
Came too late.
It's too late. An employee joined and he didn't come to office. So my branch HR officer thought this guy is absconding and they didn't send the details to me. So naturally his payroll was not processed. He joined on 22nd and 28th, the payroll was supposed to process. And around 1st or 2nd, he told I didn't get my salary. So that issues happened and it was, I don't know, we did not to blame. So what we did is immediately we gave a salary advance. We spoke to the employee and employee's manager. We paid a salary advance the same day to the help of the payroll manager. And next month we corrected it.
Okay, so what action was taken on that employee who provided the wrong information or delayed information?
Delayed information, it's a misjudgment or she didn't inquire properly from the manager. Okay, the manager told he came for 2 days, then he's missing because he actually was sick, he didn't report. So 5 days salary should be processed. So it was not, he was given a verbal warning. We had to be very careful by the manager, my manager. So that's how it was managed. The verbal warning was given, no written thing was given there because it's a misjudgment actually because of less information to my colleague.
Okay. Okay. Thanks, Shamir. It was nice discussion with you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. Now, can I hear some kind of observation remarks from the observers?
This is Swati. I can go first.
Sure. You were observing Leena, right?
Yes.
And for a competency teamwork.
Teamwork.
Right. So, do you think Leena was able to gather sufficient evidence of teamwork? I'm not saying good, bad, ugly, anything. Was she able to gather evidence? Because if she has to say that Shamir was in teamwork, he's at a level 1 or level 2, level 3. First question is, was she able to gather evidence through her questions?
So I think that Shamir was more expressive in terms of giving instances, but maybe Leena could have probed more. I felt that her questions were a little leading questions. Like I have written some examples also.
Yeah.
So like, if you face a situation where you disagree with someone's view, how do you deal with it? So this could have been in the form of extracting information from Shamir and then extrapolating it to, get more information about it. Because as soon as anybody would give this question, it leads the person that what is the interviewer expecting me to answer? I already know. So that's where I feel that we could have probed more. There was also, there was a question that Leena asked about rating, Shamir rating himself on a rating scale. So while I feel that's a good question, but I feel that it may not be sufficient to give a evidence or an instance to actually judge whether, Shamir is good at teamwork or not.
Okay, good. Good observation. So here is it, so that we can do a better interview now. A very key question. Swati has some observation. I mean, she has also documented the evidence gathered from Shamir. If you have noticed, everything was like a process. Did you see any words which were giving you or which you would be able to say, hey, this is behavior. Many times it was only a process, okay, as you said, leading questions, but there were no events which you actually asked him. Like, for example, teamwork. So you could have asked him about a project where, in an event and a situation. What was the situation like? Okay, and then what happened? Then what did he do? Then what happened? So everything he did about, I couldn't see behavior coming out.
Ma'am, I did ask about one critical incident where teamwork could be seen, but I feel I could probe more if my daughter have been there.
Now, do you realize that competency-based interview is it is a time-consuming process?
Yeah,
because you have to probe and gather that action verbs or behavior, because ultimately what you are going to go back and code is the behavior.
Yes, ma'am.
Whether that behavior is just threshold or that behavior is differentiating, which level has it demonstrated. So if you only say things, then I am not able to then judge him. Then I will just go by, oh, he spoke very well, his English was fine, and he told a lot about things, career history and everything, but I cannot come to a conclusion, right?
So we have to probe till level where
we will. So one is, what are leading questions? What are leading questions?
The questions that
are you a team leader? Yes. He's almost saying, okay, he has no choice but to say yes, kind sir. So typically in a competency-based interview, the opening question has to definitely be open-ended. Why? You want to give him an option to talk a lot about him. Okay. And thereafter, you are not asking him questions. So take a breadth question. So what is he going to say? Hey, tell me something about the kind of activities you did as a part of your teamwork. Okay, hi Shamir. So we are doing a competency-based interview, and well, I'm actually in particular going to evaluate you on teamwork. Okay. Now, because well, in the role you are going to be hired, it has a lot of stakeholders, a lot of high collaboration is required, right? Then breadth question now. Can you give me, instances where in your current job or in your previous job, where you had to actually involve yourself in a lot of team projects or team activities. So what will he do? He'll give you some things. Then go down now. Then you say, okay, fine. Okay. So tell me in this instant, what is that like? What was that project about? Okay. Then about that project, how many were working in it? Okay. What were the timelines? All right. What was your role? Okay. You'll say, okay, what is that you did there? What were things so how did you go about it? I'm saying, when you say, how did you go about it? Then what is he going to say? Obviously, he will be telling. Now, when you keep probing, he will have no option to think something bullshit and also keep telling you something wrong. So, 1, 2 things. So, there will be a pattern emerging. So, because they won't have time to tell wrong things then. No manufacturing in the head and then telling, it takes a lot of. So, that's how competency, though people say you can say anything. No, it is not. Because when you keep asking 2, 3 incidents, you're drawing patterns, how much can you fake?
Okay.
Because at least one after the other, okay, so tell us a situation where, you were not able to actually get along with the team, or you did not complete the project. So what happened there? What was the project? So when you're asking, it's an involvement. Then you see, he can't fake. He has to keep telling whatever was real. You getting me?
Yeah, and the question keeps coming from these kind of.
Okay. So here, if you notice, it's easy. We say, hey, what is there? But questioning is an art. You have to learn to probe further and further and get more out of it. Okay.
Just a small input.
Yeah.
So when you're asking question, first you were asking all leading questions, right? So you are getting the answers one by one. Now, when you are analyzing something or trying to assess any competency, as madam said, ask questions wherein he will think and answer, and it should be event based. So typically going by the technique, STAR technique, you must have read it in the readings that we had given, which clearly talks about the situation, the task, the action, the results. So when all these 4 questions are answered, you will be able to assess whether he's in a scale of 5 or a scale of 1 or a scale of 3. It will be easier for you to assess if you follow that same pattern. In case you have not followed that same pattern, for example, Samir, you asked, where would you rate? You asked him, right? You did not rate because you were not able to assess, because the absence of the STAR technique was there. So you asked him, rate yourself. And he said, I rate myself 4.5. The next question you asked, how would your team members rate? He answered, I am not sure. Now, if somebody is rating 4.5 or 5, that means as per the Zohari window, he should be in the known zone. A team who is totally collaborative and on the same page and has a 5 rating will know everything in and out about the manager and about the team members. So he knew about himself that I'm a good team player, but he was not sure about his team members. That means the team is not cohesive, right? So the team working is not very effective or satisfactory. It is okay. He is a team manager. He is handling a team, but average. That is an analysis, right? He is not 5 point. He is not at the 5 rating. So what he said is just an assumption about himself, not knowing what the other members feel about it. So that is analysis. So best is used to you use the STAR technique, where you get the outright correct answers and you can assess them on a scale. That is why you use the bars with the desired answers. Okay.
So typically what we like, for example, this question of, where do you assess yourself, a self-evaluation. So what we say typically when you are interviewing, one very important input is that we don't ask questions where it's like a self-report. Are you a leader? Yes, I'm a leader. Clearly, it's kind of a no-no. Okay, because obviously he's not going to tell you I'm at 1 or I'm at 2. So therefore, the question, what I told Swati, you should observe the purpose of the question. So if I were to ask you now, Leena, why did you ask that question? Like many a times when I did interview training, people would say, no, ma'am, I want to start from there. What does he think about it? And then I'm going to get into it, typically. But here, you can't even say, why do you think so? Because then he'll get into hypothetical. He will only give you responses in order to defend his 4.5. So therefore, it becomes null and void in the sense that you are not getting any input. Are you getting me? Yeah. So for others, it's not only for Leena, guys. Sorry, it is for everybody. The input is for everybody. Okay. Yeah. So now let us take another observer, another. Ruhi. Ruhi is thinking, ठीक है, अभी मेरा number नहीं है.
Yeah, actually my number was 3rd, so I was waiting for other one.
ठीक है, we'll take a break. I know people. So after we finish up this, you and then Kalyan, we'll take a break. Yeah.
So I think Harsha make him comfortable. That was a good point. After that, there is one point where I think that the question should be different, which was regarding detail-oriented person. So he directly shared the point itself, what we are expecting. So that might be he asked in different way or some kind of incident based, so that can get some more we can say behavior indicators to understand where he is. So that is one point. And another one is that there is one more question is how you manage your task in sufficient timeline. So in that Shamir, he has given process oriented, think what kind of process they are following, but if there are some kind of incidents are happened, then how they are dealing with that kind of answers are missing. So those answers will helpful to understand where he is from detail oriented point of view. So that is my observation from answer point of view, not from the question point of view. And then the last question was really good, because I think it gives a clarity about incident based, how he is doing and how he's tackling the, if there is any kind of missing, or if any kind of mistake is there, then what kind of action they are taking. So that is my observation.
Can you pick out at least just 2 or 3 words which you felt as an observer who was a recorder? You have to code it. So think you have to code and put him into the level 1 or level 2 or level 3 for Shamir. Okay. The competency which Harsha was doing was attention to detail, right?
Right.
Okay? Attention to detail. Okay. So what are those 2 or 3 words in this entire responses from Shamir that you can actually clearly say? These are the 2, 3 which will give me evidence of behavior. Just no sentences, just words.
I think in Shamir's case, he is process oriented because whatever he has shared.
No conclusions, no judgments. I want exact verbatim of Shamir.
Okay.
Getting me why I'm asking you? That's how you're going to.
That thing I'm not getting. That kind of observations or clear-cut things I have not received from this conversation, from which I can conclude that okay, he's at 3-2 or whatever it is.
So are you getting now whether it was Leena or whether it was Harsha? So this is what typically over the thousands and thousands of interviews.
Ruhi, he had used the word checks number of times.
Used what?
Checks.
Checks.
Check. CHECK. Check.
Yeah. Checks. That's what I was coming to. Okay.
Right.
Checks. Now, coming to that attention to detail, Harsha asked good questions. Even he went through the process of payroll very nicely. Rather, he was explaining the payroll process, but he was not, Harsha was not asking him any event. Now he is explaining payroll process. We do this and we do this and we check this. What is that you do or what happened? How did you go about? What were some of the things which came in between? He was only saying everything as a process, but not as an event. Are you getting me, Shamir?
Yeah.
I didn't see you saying something as an event. Situation. Did you notice, Harsha? So what happens when I go back and I have to take Shamir? Did you really know whether he is good at it? Attention to detail. In the sense, were you able to pinpoint with what you got data saying that yes, he's a person with high attention to detail? You won't be able to because there's no evidence. You getting me?
Yes.
So
I'm not going to hide him.
Therefore, from now on, start using your ears even in your normal and start hearing behaviors. Behavior is nothing but action words. You will get into the habit of getting closer. We speak, but so if you want to be a real good HR person, be more observant, start using your ears and look at the behavior. What is behavior? Which can be, I told you earlier, when I gave you the first session where you were able to value behavior. What is behavior? What I can see, not judge, what I can see, right? So when I'm doing a competency evaluation, not what he says, this famous, I don't know if you should read this book. There is this psychologist who has written this book. I forget the book. Chris Agaris. I don't know. Some of you guys, psychologists will know. Chris Agaris, right? So what he says, people tend to espouse. Means they will say what is supposed to be done. But they will do something else. So there's a difference between what I say and what I do. Okay. So therefore, the competency-based interview will give you gather evidence of what he does, but not what he says. So a lot many times we get stuck up. Shamir was only giving you a process, entire process. We check, we do this, we do that, but you were not able to get. That was a process of payrolls. Last mein thoda sa ek event. Okay. Let us get to the last. There's one more person to be. Shrikant. Yeah. Who was observing Shrikant? Kalyan. In fact, Shrikant asked some very good questions. I like them, but I think probing was also required. Yeah. Because when it came to, yes.
Yes. So see, ma'am, most of the cases what I've seen, that all were normal leading or otherwise journalistic questions, having a process oriented. Normally, what we do in daily life. And in that sense, making people comfortable sitting and asking and starting, it was very well. I mean, how part, I mean, how they are doing it. To some extent, it was started, but in depth, it was not there. I felt this. Normally in plant cases, because we handle a lot of plant, recruitment, we give the clue, like suppose somebody in boiler. So what is the boiler you are using? They say something, this is a boiler. So what is the boiler, the reading you got earlier and now you have rectified? I mean, we try to find out what was before and what is your contribution to make it better. So what is the thing you did out of that? And suppose motor. So what is the motor you are using? Then what is this motor, whether it works properly or not? Whether any new motor is available, whether you can use, replace that motor or not. So we try to probe in that way. Different question. One thing is what they are doing as of now, whether they are doing properly or whether they are in depth having that knowledge or not. That is why you try to find out what are the other things they could have done in that particular area, and give one example. Suppose in my company, the same problem we are facing. So what is, in your opinion, what should we do? So this is one of the critical example of our company that we are trying to find out whether he's suppose this particular problem has been resolved. So we try to find out whether he's going in the right direction, answering in the same way or not. So in that case, we can get to know whether his depth in the particular subject is there or not. Mm-hmm. So that could have been, normally in the depth questions we do in a lot of
like especially in manufacturing organizations, very important is safety, health, and occupational hazards.
Yes, so, and we always try to find out with the data. Suppose what is the data you are, what is the ratio? What is the ratio of carbon? So what carbon you are using? How you are extracting carbon out of that? So how you are preserving that? Whether it is safe or not? What are the other ways? So these are the ways. So that way we try to find out. So in this particular session, normally we used, all of us use the normal way, what we do normally. The same thing happened here also. That is my observation.
So some of the questions which Shrikant, one or two questions, if you can highlight and see that, was there any behavior? Was there any evidence which came out when he was interviewing? Because yes, some of the questions were very good. He talked about, but from the observer's point of view, I would like to, one or two questions. What do you think, Shrikant? Okay, let us ask Shrikant. Yes, Shrikant, you got some inputs and let us look at your own questions.
It was particularly related to detail orientation as well as the planning of the resources, especially which is a foremost competency required for HR generalist.
I thought that was a very good question because you definitely spoke about planning of resources, etc. Yes. Okay. Then.
So in case there is some failure in case of there is some incident where the targets are not met while recruiting itself, and the planning may go haywire. So in that context, how the productivity will be impacted with our planning. So obviously there will be certain incidences where productivity can be linked. So that way, how detailed their planning is reflected in HR budget as well.
So again, just to intervene, you were asking the right questions, but what happened was, again, you were asking like almost from the theoretical point of view. So how do you plan, then if your budget is going to go. So he would also go by what one should do, rather than looking at how did he go about, right? Then if you wanted to know, supposing he has exceeded the budget, right? Then you could have actually took him to a situation where he has exceeded the budget. How did he go about it? Then what kind of action he took? What was the result? So if you check with Shamir, so when you are responding to Shrikant's questions, like how do you plan? Then, even reviewing the budget. Only in the last incident, some linkage where he said, okay, exceeding the budget. But otherwise, essentially, again, here you are all talking about what one should do or what one will do, right? You are not typically, even if you were to tell about a situation, you are not talking about a situation. So therefore, Shrikant, if you notice that you are unable to, as a process, maybe it's very good, but you are unable to actually capture evidence for the behavior, whether he's really good at it. See, knowing how to drive is different, and knowing really, can he drive is different. I can take a book, I will say this you have to do, that you have to do. A lot of people give, but actually on the road, does he know? That kind of a thing it is. Okay. So start now becoming aware of, especially when we say interview, hey, what is the purpose? What kind of evidence I want to gather? What kind of information I want to gather? That becomes really, really very important. Okay. We'll actually do some more. I'll give you some more inputs now, and then we will do, because there are some more competencies. We'll have observers sitting in the hot seat. Yeah.
One more input in Shrikant's case. The last question was very big. I mean, I think the big question, very big questions, is very difficult to, remember and then answer. It should
comprehend.
Be small question. If I give long question, it should be very difficult to answer by the, I think so.
Multiple questions, in one question, only 2-3 questions. So we'll look at what kind of questions one can ask. Okay. We'll do the questioning pattern as well. So take a small bio break.